Now, keep your texts and your comments coming in. We're going to be talking to Michael Quinn in a minute. Damien, there was a group of teenagers around the swings and different areas in the People's Park, at least 10 in number, over the last few days. What's the situation with something like this? People are being told to maintain social distancing, and I know that the wardens and Gardaí are going to be working a lot deeper and a lot more busier this weekend. I've had a text in from somebody in Tramore. Damien, can you please do your utmost to plug social distancing this morning at the weekend, particularly as there will be glorious sunshine this weekend. Even if it's one extra person reached, it's one less likely to spread to many more. This voice and this message is needed now more than ever. A gigantic thank you. This is from a person who texted me earlier in the week who said that she was quite upset about how social distancing was not being respected, but then in the last while a lot of people have come around to their senses and they have changed. And in workplaces, younger people, even though those that are on social media should be knowing a lot about this, they're not doing it as much. Something uplifting, she says, over the last couple of days, people have offered services for free in lots of different aspects of life, and the coming together of people is great. So keep it going as much as possible. Michael Quinn, good morning.
Hi, Damien. How's it going?
I'm not too bad myself. You're a lecturer out in WIT. WIT is still closed, isn't it?
It's still closed, and there's meetings going on about. I suppose students are worried about exams now and what's going to happen towards the end of May, and do they have fit exams? So it's kind of has a knock-on effect on everything. So I think there'll be there's a big meeting today about that, and I think that some information will come from it.
Okay.
So hopefully that'll put the students' mind at rest.
Yeah. And as you say, it's not closed. Everybody is still working online and they're still doing their work remotely.
Yeah.
There are some subjects like culinary expertise.
Culinary expertise, yes. It's a lot of practical, and so we're kind of coming up with novel ways of trying to, we have to grade students, particularly fourth year degree students who are leaving this year. So, there's obviously written assignments. So I don't know. We're working together a lot of the lectures, and we're coming up with novel ways to kind of, come up with new ways to mark these students. And without, I think the most important point to make is that they have enough worry on their minds. This thing is that they're taking it's just gathering momentum every day. So it's just to try and calm students down and make sure that once they get their work in and there's plenty of contact between lecturers and the students, everything should be fine.
In terms of people listening this morning of all ages, of all walks of life, and people are cooking at home a lot more than they would have. A lot of the fast food takeouts are closed as well. There will be some people going out maybe and trying to support a local business and getting a takeaway pizza tonight, and that's good, maybe once a week to do that and support the local business. Can you just give some general advice, please, Michael, in terms of how people should approach their shopping and cooking experience in this difficult time?
Yeah, there's plenty of kids around, and particularly at home, and probably now is a fantastic opportunity to spend a bit of time cooking with the kids, and just introduce them to little basic things like making bread dough and watching it rise in the oven, and just get kids involved at home and get everyone involved, get people tasting, get people talking about it, and just stick with really simple dishes. There's no point in complicating things, and particularly now people, a lot of people are out of work, so they're looking for kind of budget options. They're looking for things that are going to, that will taste good, but that obviously on a budget you're not going to be spending a fortune. So I'm looking at things, mince meat. You can make fabulous meatballs from it. And little kids love to kind of play around with that kind of thing. You can get them to roll them up and just put a little bit of garlic, a few herbs, if you have fresh herbs or dried herbs, season it up with a little bit of salt and pepper, and just make them into little balls. And make a little tomato sauce, serve it with pasta. Another kind of idea is just like the hot weather chicken wings. Again, they're reasonable. Just marinate them in a bit of garlic, olive oil. And kids love to kind of mess around with that as well, and just serve them with a bit of hot sauce or mayonnaise or whatever, and that kind of thing. And, there's loads of things to do, but I suppose the main point I'd make is just keep it simple. Don't try and complicate it, and get everyone involved in it. Like, I don't think it should be up to one particular person. Give them little jobs, like they're around. And I think cooking, there's all this talk about homeschooling now and that. I mean, to me, that's a huge lesson. It's a life skill, cooking. And that's, particularly this time of year, and particularly what's going on, to me, that's probably better. Now, I know I'll probably be shot for saying it, but, it's better than sitting down doing maths or whatever with them.
I know there has to be a balance, yeah, of course, and there has to be a balance, and there has to be. I've been finding the last 2 weeks, Michael, in cooking for people, for my children and family, it becomes more of an event beforehand.
Yes.
And like even the fact where you sit down and you say to a child that might normally eat quite quickly, because they have to go and do something, or have to go and ring somebody, have to go out, have to do this, or football training is on, or whatever. You can actually say, slow down now, relax, enjoy your meal. We'll kind of eat like Italians for the day. We'll take it easy, and you'll take a half an hour at the meal. You'll take 40 minutes, and you'll put the fork down in between bites, and you'll just say. And it's amazing how that slowing down has helped the culinary experience.
But isn't that a lovely thing to do?
Very much so. It's fabulous.
Sit down and just enjoy the food, and because I've noticed that things have slowed down, and it is, yes, there is huge upheaval, and people are very worried and scared, but it's just it's a time that we're given this time, and I think it's a time to we can't do anything about it. So there's no point in really. We can only control what's happening in our own little world, and that's important. And sitting down with family and helping to cook meals, simple meals, I think that's a really good thing to do. The other thing I'd say is that if you could, on the shopping front, just support the local, like there's local butchers still in business. They're still open, and they will they'll deliver the meat to you. I know Carney's in town is delivering. I know other people will put the meat into the car for you. You can just pay over the phone. And it's just to keep these small little businesses up and running. It's very, very important, because if we lose those independent little, shops and producers, and we're in trouble. There's different people trying to do novel things, like producers are selling their food online, and they're getting it delivered courier to the households and stuff. And I think that should be encouraged.
Very much so. Michael, thank you so much for talking to us this morning. To you and your family, take care. And
you too, Damien. You too.
Special hello to your...
We'll get out of this unscathed, hopefully.
Yeah, and special hello to your mum and dad this morning, okay?
I will. Thank you very much, Damien. Take care.
Thank you, Michael. Michael Quinn there. WIT lecturer, you've heard about the latest there regarding WIT. Classes are not going ahead. Obviously, the college is not operating as normal, but everything is going ahead online, and students are being encouraged and facilitated regarding online learning, and they're going to make a decision, a big meeting planned later today. We might hear about that later today, or certainly on Monday, regarding any plans for the summertime. Also, text us in about what your thoughts are about what Michael had to say there. Do you have to sanitise all your shopping when you get home from the supermarket before putting it in the press? I did a bit of research on this the other day, and cardboard has been known to hold on to some of the virus strains for a certain amount of time, but the supermarkets and everybody have put in place very strict conditions that they're wiping down a lot of the stuff before it goes on. But if you had a sanitary wipe, certainly you could just do that. But again, the main thing is washing your own hands. So, for example, if you had a box of cornflakes and you're putting it into the press or whatever the case may be, give it a quick wipe down, but wash your own hands afterwards. Some great ideas there from Michael, says this texter. Would it be a good idea for people to change their pizza night or takeaway night? Ask your local takeaway what nights are busy and what are quiet, and then make sure that you're spreading it out and keeping them busy over 2 or 3 nights. Very, very good idea. Can you please ask people to maintain their social distancing at supermarket aisles? One-way systems. Also, don't take packs off the shelves and put them back. Someone else will have to pick it up. If you touch it, please take it. This is very, very important. Wash your hands, keep your distance, stay safe. This is from, I think, somebody who works in a supermarket. Today, Minister Harris has says basically we've given business 48 hours to comply with social distancing. Very, very important. So the next time we have to make sure that we have to emphasise social distancing and we have to emphasise hand washing, not just physical distancing. A phone caller to 051 846 123 says, can you emphasise hand washing, not just physical distancing? A lot of people asking about what's going to happen at the weekend when the weather is so good. We heard the Gardaí on yesterday saying that they will do something about this. They'll be monitoring car parks, particularly at main tourist spots. So there will be changes this weekend. Talking to some people over the last few days, they go out at different times, either early in the morning or late in the evening, and have a nice walk on the beach or on the strand or wherever the case may be, up the mountains. So again, try and stagger your times, try and work it out on the basis that you know you're not going to be hitting things at peak times. Stay with us. We are going to be talking about poetry. Lovely, lovely poetry. Now, keep your texts and your calls coming in. Damien, in some post offices, social distancing is not being respected, particularly in Watford City. Some people are only 3 feet apart. Again, remember this, folks. Social distancing is approximately 2 metres. That's 6 feet. OK? Not just 3 feet. The reason, as you've heard repeatedly on this programme and in other programmes, is the possibility that if somebody did cough or sneeze, that the droplets will be in the air. They could get on you. Now, you can't, if you pass by somebody 3 feet away, the chances of getting something is very slim, but obviously keep the 6 feet. That's what it's all about. It's the 6 feet distance is what we are looking at doing. I think we have Maureen on the line now. Are you on the line there, Maureen?
Hello there, Damien.
How are you?
Good form. How are you keeping?
I'm very, very good. Thank you very much. Listen, thank you so much for joining us this morning. You are Director of Poetry Ireland.
That's correct, absolutely.
Incoming Director of the Arts Council. And we've been playing some poems this morning and listening to some poetry that people have written themselves and other poems. I read out a little piece of Derek Mann yesterday, Everything is Going to Be All Right.
Brilliant.
You've been tweeting a poem a day. Why is poetry important?
It's important in normal times, but it's particularly important right now, I think, Damien, because it comforts people. People are finding huge solace in it. We often say that poetry is the best words in the best order, and poets are particularly proficient at just getting an emotion down in a way that is quite unusual and it has a very great charge for people. So people can read something that's very short and digestible and respond to it and feel, wow, that's saying exactly what I feel right now. Or maybe it's even saying something that they didn't even know they were feeling, but that is crystallised in a poem. So you mentioned the Derek Mann poem, and people are responding to that in huge numbers. It's kind of almost like the talismanic survival poem for Ireland right now. And there's a gorgeous line in it: "The sun rises in spite of everything." So it's offering people a huge amount of hope, I think.
Yeah. Will I play a little bit of it? Well, will I play?
Love to hear it. Can't hear it enough.
OK, let's play this poem. Everything is Going to Be All Right by Derek Mann.
Everything is going to be all right. How should I not be glad to contemplate the clouds clearing beyond the dormer window and a high tide reflected on the ceiling? There will be dying, but there is no need to go into that. The poems flow from the hand unbidden, and the hidden source is the watchful heart. The sun rises in spite of everything, and the far cities are beautiful and bright. I lie here in a riot of sunlight, watching the day break and the clouds fly. Everything is going to be all right.
It is a beautiful poem. Some people, Maureen, just don't get poetry. They kind of maybe have not experienced that deep sense of emotion, how a poem can hit you, because they may have had bad experience at school. Like a lot of poetry for people in their 40s and 50s, when you're taught at school, it was the poems were drilled into you and you had to get the line, you had to learn them off by rote. So would it be fair to say that there are some people that don't know how to read a poem?
Well, I don't know whether it's exactly that. It's that maybe the right poem hasn't come in front of them. And there's certainly a sense for lots of us about school. And I mean, there are brilliant teachers out there, but that kind of rote learning thing where it was drilled into you, as said, really turned a lot of people off it, But what you do find is very
that's what I mean,
is that people come back to it then when you enter adulthood and all of a sudden you're getting married and next thing you want a poem, or when bereavement starts striking you, we all turn to poetry. So there's a very interesting drift away from it and then a very strong drift back towards it. But our mission in Poetry Ireland is to connect people with poetry, and we absolutely believe that there's the right poem for every single person in the country. And that's our kind of ongoing effort, is to make sure that we get the right poems in front of people so that they can actually interact with it. You're right in saying it can be seen as sort of elitist or obscure for some people, but we've seen through all the work that we do, and we work with people from the ages of, say, 2 to 92, that people, when they're introduced to the right poem, will respond to it in incredible ways. And
it doesn't, sorry, Maureen, it doesn't have to be highfalutin. Like we had a man from Waterford City on, 82 years of age, who wrote a poem. And he read it out this morning about the people in the hospital here and how they're working and helping his wife who's in there. And it was just beautiful. Yeah. And like even if people even sat down for 5 or 10 minutes in a day and just tried to write a poem themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wouldn't it be lovely?
Oh, no, and it's fantastic. I mean, we are genuinely finding in the last 2 weeks that people are turning to poetry in huge numbers. It's striking. We have a poet in residence, a great poet called Catherine Ann Cullen, and she's been tweeting out a poetry prompt every day, one for adults and one for children. So people can go on our website or follow us on Twitter at Poetry Ireland, and they will find just a daily, quirky, interesting prompt, which will... it signs you up as well to a community. There are people like tweeting poems to each other now, and they're part of a new community of poetry, which is lovely, because they're, in effect, we're also isolated. What we're trying to do is keep each other company. So people are keeping each other company through poetry, and it's absolutely gorgeous to watch. Yeah,
one thing that I do is try to read a poem at night time, and I know some people read a poem before they go to sleep or before they go to bed, because again it has that calming, soothing effect, and just puts the mind and the soul in a different kind of a place, I think. Yeah, it's that thing of it being such a contained source of such strong energy and charge that I think it was Paul Muldoon that said a good poem should be a force field that when you go through it, you feel changed and hopefully for the better. So I think we trust poetry like that, and it's like from that Derek Mahon poem, it's coming unbidden from the hand, so that there is something kind of magical about it, that we trust the poet to give us wisdom. Like poems can be very, very wise. And there's also the effect of the images that they flood your minds with. Right now, when we're in need of distraction, we need something like to change the landscape in our minds for us, and poems can certainly do that. Beautifully put. Maureen, have you got a favourite poet? I have many favourites. There's a book, a person that just phoned in, there's a book called Book of 1,000 Poems. Like everybody should have, and probably does have, some poetry books at home, even if it's soundings, even if it's one of the... absolutely. Go on. Give us your thought for the day. Give us your thought for the day. Okay. Well, there is an absolutely beautiful poem by Kerry Hardy, who's not too far from you. She lives near Graignamanagh. Yes. So she's in your neck of the woods. So it's a beautiful poem called May.
and it's about the month of May. But there are just some beautiful lines in it. She talks about the hills blue, all the flowering weeds bursting open, balm in the air, the bird song bouncing back out of the sky, the cattle laying down in the meadow forgetting to feed. So there's just, it's just that feeling of distraction that we all need right now, and opening your mind up to think about brighter times, which and to support each other in these times, in these very, very difficult times.
Super, beautifully put. Maureen, thank you so much.
Thanks, Damien. Keep well. Bye-bye.
Keep well. Mind yourself. Maureen Keneally there, who's Director of Poetry Ireland. A lovely message in from Elaine. Damien, my dad wrote this poem to my mam, his wife, for their anniversary last Sunday. The hair on my head has vanished. My heart is broken too, after 44 years of marriage and lucky to come through. Now Leo told the nation to social isolate, easily known he never was inside the door of 38. No hugs or cuddles are ever on show here, not alone during the virus, but throughout the bloody year. But you face it every day and do what you have to do. Walk the dog, hang out the washing, paddle your own canoe. So if COVID-19 don't get me, and I happen to come true, however many years I have, I hope to spend them with you. Isn't that lovely? I think we have Sharon on the line. Good morning, Sharon.
Morning.
How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. You?
Good, thank you. Yeah, Sharon Ryan, you are in Ballin Road, is that right?
I am, yeah.
Do you ever read any poetry? No, you're not a poetry person.
I'm not, but my husband is.
Ah, right. He reads. He likes a good poem, does he?
He writes it, yeah.
He writes as well. Excellent. Listen,
Yeah.
You're our entry today into the competition, our chance to win, courtesy of Original Irish Hotels, a 2-night breakaway and breakfast and dinner on one night for 2 people sharing in the Racket Hall Country House Hotel in Tipperary. Would you like that?
I'd love that, yeah.
For some time later in the year. So you know how it works. We're going to play the 30-second timer underneath what you're saying, and then we will ask you the question. So if you don't know them, just say pass very quickly. Is that okay?
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Okay, here we go. Sharon Ryan from Ballin Road. 3, 2, 1. Which Irish woman sings Good Looking Woman? Which Irish singer sings Good Looking Woman?
Joe Dolan.
The yen is the currency of which country?
Japan.
Alexander Graham Bell invented what?
Telephone.
Who played Forrest Gump?
Tom Hanks.
Which Waterford village does Flahavan's porridge come from?
Kilmac Thomas.
How many sides does a pentagon have?
10.
In which UK city, you can take your time at this, in which UK city would you find the Shard? S-H-A-R-D.
London.
Excellent, well done. You got them all right. Well done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Superb.
Okay, cool.
And I was slow on the first one. I mispronounced the first one, but you got through them very well. So that's Joe Dolan, Japan, the yen. Very good. And Kilmac Thomas. And you got them all right. So well done in the Shard in London. So I think you're in the lead all right at the present. And
Cool.
Aveen will be in touch with you later if you are continuing to stay in the lead later on. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's grand. Thanks, Damien.
Do you want to say hello to anybody this morning?
I'll say hello to my family who are listening downstairs.
And what's your husband's name, by the way?
He's David Ryan.
Lovely. Well, tell him to keep reading the poetry. Thank you so much, Sharon, and congratulations to you and all your family.
Thanks.
Mind yourself, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sharon Ryan there, Ballin Road in Dungarvan. A text in from Frankie. I think Frankie has texted in. Damien, are you losing the plot? Writing poetry? Really? People have enough to be getting on with these days, says Frank. They have a lot to be getting on, but as I say, poetry is one of those things that can help people get through these difficult times. Damien, is there going to be Mass on Sunday in WLR? No, Mass has been broadcast as part of a national broadcasting coordination system on RTE on Sunday mornings. We had Mass 2 weeks ago. It's very difficult in these difficult times to organise outside broadcast units and outside broadcasts regarding of Mass. It is really difficult. So what they've done is they've decided to centralise it, and it's going to be on RT in the morning. Other people sending us in their poems and other thoughts. I'll go with those in a minute. Now, keep your texts and your comments coming in 083 333 975. Text or WhatsApp. We have John Cotter on the line. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Damien. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. You're the buyer for the book centre, and we're going to be talking about books and what's good to read at the minute, and how people can access books through yourselves. Firstly, we were talking to Maureen Keneally, their Director of Poetry Ireland, a minute ago. There's some beautiful poems out there. Do you read a little bit of poetry yourself?
I do. I like to have an anthology beside the bed, actually. Kind of read one or two at night, you know.
Yeah.
There's a couple of good ones out there, like Poetry Pharmacy and stuff like that. It's kind of nice to read just one or two. I would find I wouldn't be able to read a whole poetry book all the way through, but it's kind of a nice, particularly at this in these troubled times. There's a lot of consolation to be found. It's a very well written poem, you know.
Yeah, that's what Maureen has said. I know some people, and we'll be talking about novels, and people lose themselves in a novel, which is another good way of doing it. I just have to do this, John, before I go any further. Got this lovely text a second ago in from Maggie. My dad sent this poem to my mum in 1958, just before their wedding. Unfortunately, he died in 2016. She still kissed his photo goodnight. So she sent me in a picture of the poem, which was written in 1958, and it's on, obviously, paper, and it's written in beautiful pen. I'm just going to read it out. To Mary. Each morning of my life becomes more interesting and new because of all the wonder and the joy of knowing you. Whenever I behold the sun that lights another day, I tell myself the friendly thoughts that I've heard you say. And when the stars surround the moon to decorate the night, my dream of you makes everything more beautiful and bright. Isn't that lovely?
That's really nice.
Yeah, it's really lovely.
Very touching to hear that she was kissing his photo every night as well.
Yeah, it really is nice, you know.
Story.
I think what's happening as well, John, talking to Michael Quinn about this, it's bringing people together, and there's so much communication happening at different levels with families and with couples of all ages that we took for granted in the past, and books and learning about books, and it's part of this process, isn't it?
Well, I think it's part of that. I mean, I was just reading there, I think on one of the British websites, that a lot of people are setting up kind of virtual book clubs as well to kind of keep so they can read and comment on each other's reading. I do think as well it's a good thing for people to talk about, and I think it's a good way of bringing people together. I also think, you know, I know myself when I'm not working here or when I'm off, there is a kind of a screen fatigue that comes in where you just can't look at any more television programs or any more films or whatever. you need something, you know, that's something that's going to, something a bit different. So I think books fulfill that, and it kind of moves you in a kind of different level, I think, as far as I know, you know. So tell
me about a couple of good ones now that you'd recommend.
Sure. Well, I'll just start off with one of the big kids one that's just come out, which is the new David Walliams. So he's an amazing writer, kind of very similar to Roald Dahl, if any of the older listeners haven't read him, but kind of like all kids of all ages love him. So this is a new one called Slime, and it's set on the Isle of Mulch, and it's about a boy. It's kind of he's an extraordinary boy who manages to it's a kind of a tyrannical realm on the Isle of Mulch, and he tries to free the people, as it were. So I mean that's flying out the door at the moment, as you can imagine. But in terms of the adult books, there's quite a few ones. There's one called the Guest List by a lady called Lucy Foley, and it's set on an island off the Irish coast. It's everyone gathers for the kind of social wedding of the year, and unfortunately someone doesn't make it through the night, as it were, through nefarious means. So it's kind of like a bit of Agatha Christie kind of a feel to it, but it's kind of like I read her previous one called The Hunting Party. That was very good, so I haven't had a chance to read this one yet, but it looks like a really good read. Okay. There's another one called Our Little Cruelties by Liz Nugent. I don't know if you ever heard of her.
Yes.
So she's another Irish writer at the moment. She writes really intelligent psychological crime. So I kind of only a chapter into this. It looks really good. It's kind of family funeral. Again, kind of battles between families and three brothers. Again, one is betraying the other one, but it's all about the kind of interactions. I read a previous book by her called Unraveling Oliver, which is really good. I'm looking forward to kind of finishing that now at the moment. There's a lot of people are looking for want of a better word, comfort reading as well at this time, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So like Marion Keyes' new one called Grown Ups is selling really, really well. She's really funny writer, and really, a romantic fiction gets a bad rap sometimes, but she's like a really quality writer and very funny, but also has a romantic side to it as well. So again, this is about family dynamics, and this family gathering, and one brother's wife gets concussion and can't keep her thoughts to herself. So all the family secrets come out, and it's kind of I haven't read it myself, but it's actually flying out the door, and people are really enjoying it. Seems to be. Another one that got a bit of media just before the whole virus lockdown was The Paper Bracelet by a lady called Rachel English.
Oh yes,
which is set. It's about a retired nurse who worked in a mother and baby home in the 70s, and she keeps all the paper bracelets from the babies, obviously, who passed through, and then she keeps them in a box. And after her own husband passes away, she thinks, this is what I'll do, is I'll try and set up a website and internet forum to contact these people. And so it's all the stories that kind of happen through that,
And so, can I ask you, John, again, we're going to do another slot on this next Friday, and we'll get you back on, hopefully. How do people get these books? Do they go online now? Have you a website?
We can go online, yeah. We have www.thebookcentre.ie. We'll post them out we have a courier service, so it's a €4 charge, and if you're buying over 30, it's free. We'll also take phone inquiries now. Obviously, we can't. We're closed to the public due to the government regulations.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're struggling with the online, just give us a ring, and we can send it out that way as well.
Okay. What's your phone number?
It's 051 873 823.
Super. It's a difficult time for you. It's I know for your staff and for everything there,
sure.
And you want to keep things going. So, again, as Michael says earlier, in terms of encouraging local, I suppose, butchers and things like that, to encourage local bookshops. And if any listeners out there at all, if you're looking at getting a book this weekend or today, go on to thebookcentre.ie or give yourself a ring, John. Listen, you mind yourself, John, okay?
Yeah, same to yourself. Stay safe, Damien. Thanks very much.
Not at all. Thank you, and a pleasure to have you on. Pleasure. So support local businesses as much as possible, please. I want to say happy birthday to Donald McCarthy, an old friend of mine and the Galtier junior football team. Damien, I have some beautiful children's poetry books from my school days in the 1970s and 80s. It's called Come Follow Me, Poems for the Young. That is from Rose. Another person saying, lovely, lovely book of poetry by the late Danny Wise, called Words of the Wise, and it's from Kay. Another person saying, I wrote this poem for my dad, Phil Daly, on Father's Day in June 2000. He died in July 2000. I have a special father no one else can compare. Everything you do makes me laugh throughout the year. Dad, there is no other way that I can let you know about the way I feel within this heart of mine, because the way I see Dad, if everyone had a dad like mine, this world would be so divine. That's from Tracy in Dungarvan. Now I'm going to be talking to Kate Killeen White, Chief Officer with the South Eastern Community Healthcare, who are summarising the strategy that has happened this week, and also thanking all the staff for their efforts. Firstly, some news just in. Boris Johnson has just tweeted to say he's tested positive for coronavirus, but his symptoms are mild at present. Other people texting in about poetry. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I heard a shout, get off me feckin' daffodils. Kate, good morning.
Good morning, Damien.
Do you read a bit of poetry yourself? What do you do to relax? Because I presume you're inundated with so many different things, and everybody working at all different levels in the HSE, management staff. It's just been phenomenal times, hasn't it?
It has indeed. It is, in actual fact, it's an unprecedented crisis. It's challenging the health system and our staff right across the South East, and it's affecting communities and families, and indeed your listeners in Waterford. But I would like to reiterate my thanks to the fantastic teams here in the South East and in Waterford. We are all pulling together to respond to the COVID crisis.
Yes, and people have different views and give out in normal times about the HSE and hospital services and different things, and a lot of people crib and give out, but the unfailing work that has been done, the phenomenal efforts by everybody, like people texting in about the laundry staff, the cleaning staff, the community care people, so many different aspects of life, Kate, where it would go unnoticed. Like even those working behind the scenes, working in office jobs, keeping the system going. It's phenomenal, isn't it?
It is indeed. It's a huge collective community response to the crisis that we're currently facing. Every member of the HSE in the South East and indeed in Waterford, as I said, are pulling together and pulling out all the stops to ensure that we're in a position to respond to the COVID crisis. In actual fact, I'm so proud of every single staff member in the South East, because this is a challenging time, it's a demanding time, but together we are making a difference and ensuring that our communities and Waterford and our services come out of this crisis, and that is my determination and the determination of all of the staff across the South East.
And last night's recognition, I know it wasn't an awful lot, but it was just beautiful. And so many different people came out of their houses. They applauded, and the Dáil standing up. And some people say, oh, could we do a lot more for those working in the health system? But at least it was some partial recognition and the start, I think, of something that's going to develop as well, the 2 minutes of applause. It was just beautiful, wasn't it?
It was indeed, and no less than the frontline staff and nurses and doctors, and indeed all of our frontline staff across the South East deserve no less than they deserve.
How is the strategy working, Kate, in terms of the South East, for example? All those systems that are set up in community healthcare. Are you happy with the way things are going at present? And I use that word happy in the pejorative sense.
So look, there's a couple of things that we are doing. The crisis management team in the South East sets out the priority actions which we are taking in response to the COVID crisis. In addition, we are working very closely with the local authority and on Garda Síochána to ensure that there is a very strong interagency response across the city and county of Waterford. The couple of things and actions that we are doing are really important. We need to find the virus, Damien, and in order to do that, we are testing people who display symptoms of COVID-19 in line with the clinical criteria. And as many of your listeners will know, we have set up testing centres to enable this to happen in the city of Waterford and indeed in the county of Waterford. And we have trained staff to do the testing. But most importantly, we need to continue to isolate. I appreciate, Damien, that this is a very, very difficult time for everyone. People are worried, and I know that people miss spending time with their families and friends, as indeed I do. I know that people are trying to adapt to their changing routines, and for vulnerable people across the city and county, I fully appreciate that this is difficult. However, it is so, so important that by playing our part individually and collectively, by staying at home and by self-isolating when we display symptoms of COVID-19, we will collectively make a difference. This is the first line of defence in terms of combating the virus. And I would like to take this opportunity to urge all of your listeners across the city and county of Waterford to adhere to this advice. It is only by doing this, Damien, will we make a difference and help slow the spread of COVID-19.
Yes, and we've been saying that constantly, and everybody is saying that constantly, and I'd say 95% of the message has got through to people. This weekend, Kate, and we've heard from Gardaí, we've heard from doctors, we've heard from nurses about getting out this weekend, maintaining that social distancing, washing your hands. We've seen the figures rise last night. This weekend is so vital, isn't it?
It is indeed, in terms of that phrase that we've all heard about flattening the curve. This weekend is so, so important, as is every day at this stage. We need to continue to stay at home, to self-isolate if we have the symptoms, to wash your hands. Those basic things will make a difference. And I would like to reiterate that I appreciate that this is very challenging for everyone, including our vulnerable people right across the city and county. But it is the necessary action that we need to take now in order to ensure that we collectively try and combat the COVID crisis.
Very, very well put. Kate Killeen-White, Chief Officer with the South East Community Healthcare, to you and all your staff and your family. Mind yourself and take care, OK?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you next week, please God. That's Kate Killeen-White on the health strategy in the region, and thanking all the staff and everybody involved in all the different services. Somebody texted in earlier about Noonan cleaning services. Yes, a special message to you. Thank you so much for that. Other people texting about supermarket workers. Hello, Damien. I wrote this poem for my parents who celebrate 52 years of marriage today. And this is, I think, in from Martina. The poem I wrote was for their golden anniversary. I attach a photo of the poem. Could you wish them happy anniversary, please? Many thanks. That's from Martina in Bunman. I won't get a chance to read out the poem yet at present. Another person texted in, Damien, at 8 o'clock last night, I didn't clap, I was roaring, crying. There are scam messages going around, says Anne, being sent to phones telling people there's a delivery at the depot from An Post. You have to click on an attachment. Don't do this. I just received one, but I hadn't heard anything about it. Regarding poetry, the sun is shining, the sky is blue, the world is beautiful, and so is you, says this person. Another one saying, I love to try and compose poetry. I find it very relaxing. A caller to 051846123. Could you mention, please, people with newborn babies? I have been out and about with a newborn baby, and a woman came over. She meant well, but she put her head right into the buggy, just to remind people not to be doing that until the virus is gone. She put her head right into the buggy. Again, she did mean well, as you say, but it's just not the right thing to do at this time at present. A couple of callers had texted in. Jim Fitzgerald rang in earlier to say, please stop people throwing their gloves on the ground when you're finished. Put them in the bins. Happy birthday to Claire Hennessy, who celebrates a special birthday today. Now we're going to end the week. A difficult week for so many different people. Going to end the week on a little bit of a high. We've done themed music all week. Today is Westlife. We want to thank everybody for all your contributions to the show. I want to thank everybody here in WLR for all the great work over the last while. I want to say a special hello to Colin Herbert, to Erica Hearn and to Gavin Whelan. Julie, for producing, thank you very much for another great week. To all the news team, thank you very much, and everybody working behind the scenes. Stay safe. Have a good weekend, everybody. Wash your hands. Maintain your social distance. If you're going out this weekend, please, please, please respect that.